Laura. I'm your host, Laura Hediger, and this is going to be a fascinating conversation for all the sports fans who are watching or who are listening, or any of you who just like the excitement of being around a really big event. We are going to find out all the behind the scenes information that goes into some of the most iconic moments in St. Louis sports history. And the person that we are doing that with is Mark Schreiber. He is the head of the St. Louis Sports Commission. Mark, it is so good to see you.
Thank you, Laura. Wonderful to be with you.
As we sit here in real time on this Wednesday morning, thank you for making a huge announcement from the Sports Commission just in the last few hours. What do we need to know about the Musial Awards and the icon who will be coming to St. Louis for this?
I wish I could tell you we did this on purpose to coincide with the interview. I'd be kind of exaggerating if that were the case. But we're thrilled. We announced today that Billie Jean King, the sports icon, will be in St. Louis November 21st to accept the Stan Musial Lifetime Achievement Award for Sportsmanship. That is the highest award for sportsmanship. It's the pinnacle honor that we bestow at the Musial Awards every year at Stiefel Theater. And, again, just such a fitting recipient of that award. I know she is thrilled about it because she was a big fan of Stan. And it's just a wonderful thing for us to continue this line of sports icons and legends that have received this prestigious honor in Stan's name.
And sportsmanship. That is something that sets really good athletes apart. The greats are set apart when you talk about sportsmanship and when people play their game the right way.
Yeah. And in Billie Jean King's case, it's not just the on-court piece, but very much what she's done throughout her life and the courage and fortitude she has shown over time to be a champion for equality and fairness. I think fairness is the kind of the key word here as it relates to sportsmanship. And so when you look back over who we've been able to honor, it's everybody from Arnold Palmer to Hank Aaron to Jackie Joyner-Kersee, Bill Bradley, the senator, Wayne Gretzky, Bob Costas, Pujols. We had Christy Yamaguchi last year. I'll forget a few in that mix because it's a long line now. But they all, really exemplify those virtues of sportsmanship. And that's what we want to do with the Musials is put a spotlight on the importance of being a good sport and inspire people to strive for being kind and selfless and just good to one another, whether that's on the field or in everyday life. And it said in the open about, hey, this is going to be interesting if you're a sports fan, but I think the sportsmanship transcends sports. And so even if you're not a sports fan, we always say, you will love the Musial Awards. It's like going to a Broadway show, but just the inspiration that you take away will cover anybody, sports fan or not.
And you do it so well. I've been lucky enough to go to the Musials a couple of times over the last 14 or so years. It's at Stiefel Theater. It's just before Thanksgiving. Yep. So there's this cozy excitement because we're starting the holidays together in this really special way. And Mike Bush does such a good job of telling so many stories. And you just sit back and think, wow, how cool is it that St. Louis is in the center of this really big program that is then nationally televised too, right here on CBS.
Yes. Yeah, you said it so well. And that's one of the goals for the event. One is, as I said, inspire people across the country to be good sports. But we're also, the selfish St. Louis part of it is to put St. Louis on the map as the home of celebrating sportsmanship in America. And, that's a pretty good thing to stake your claim to. and be able to be seen nationally. And it fits with who we are, with those Midwestern values. And I always like to say, St. Louisans have earned this reputation over time as, we're the fans that cheer when the opposing player makes a great play. It's very true. It doesn't always happen everywhere. And so this whole idea of, this epicenter of sportsmanship being St. Louis fits who we are.
Because it goes back to doing the right thing. Whether you're on the field, you're off the field, doing the right thing even when no one else is looking.
Yeah. And it's so needed in the times we are in today. I think we can all use those doses of inspirational stories and humility and empathy. And I think, those that are regulars at the show, it's what they come for, is to just feel good about humanity. And, it's a great thing, too. You mentioned the CBS piece, a big deal. The Musial Awards are aside from live sporting events, it's the only TV show that originates from St. Louis. It's a big accomplishment for our community to have this. In the last few years, it's been right out of NFL coverage. So our viewership is huge, way more than some small little show out of the Midwest should be getting. But it's been a great thing for us, and it's just one of the pieces to the Sports Commission where we try to have an impact on the region.
And that's what's crazy to me, because the Sports Commission main mission could easily be producing this fantastic award show where you do honor the best sportsmanship that's happened, not just that year, but in Billie Jean King's situation, lifetime. That could be it. That could be the focus for all 364 other days of the year. The St. Louis Sports Commission is constantly working to not only make the events great when they're happening, but to bring the events to St. Louis. And we have to brag on you, because just in the last few weeks, you had a huge announcement pertaining to the upcoming Olympics.
Yes.
For people who did not hear about it, what's going on?
Yeah, so we won the bid for the 2028 U.S. Olympic Marathon trials. And our Olympic legacy is really important to us as the city that was America's first Olympic city, hosted the Games here in 1904, the third Olympiad. And it puts us in special company. I mean, we're in the conversation with the world's biggest and greatest cities. It's not all the time that we have a seat at the table, but when you talk about the Olympic movement, we do. And so we look to leverage those opportunities that we have as an Olympic city to make an impact on our region. And here was a great example where, in our bid for the trials, playing up that contribution St. Louis has made and the part we have in the Olympic movement really helped tell a great story to help land that event. And so that's how we win the bid. But in terms of the impact of the event, we can talk about economic impact and so forth. But just furthering that Olympic legacy is really important to us. And so for St. Louis to have such a prominent role now in the lead up to LA 28 and be part of the actual game, since the Olympic soccer is going to be here. What a great summer 2028 is going to be, or spring summer, because we'll have the Olympic marathon trials the last weekend of March. We're waiting for word on this, but I got to believe we're going to be part of the Olympic torch relay. And then, of course, we have the Olympic soccer matches, 8 matches that will take place during the Olympic Games. I said at the announcement, I defy many other cities to sort of match that Olympic activity and that aren't Los Angeles. So a big thing for our region.
And it's amazing that just last winter we had the U.S. Olympic skating team trials here. But when we think about the marathon, 26.2 miles across one city, everyone is going to see these amazing shots of our city.
Yeah.
And that's awesome, because it's not contained to a specific arena, it's everywhere.
Yes. Yeah. It's truly will be a 3-hour showcase of St. Louis on national television. And I love what sort of the vision that we have for the race, where, again, tying back to the Olympic history, we still have to finalize the course, but the intent right now is to start at Francis Olympic Field, site of the 1904 games. So the athletes do a couple loops there, and then go down into Forest Park, of course, something we want to showcase. Go down Lindell Olive into downtown. You're going to have these spectacular shots with the arch in the background and other St. Louis landmarks. And then something that you just don't typically see with the Olympic trials, we'll have a stadium finish where we finish in Energizer Park. And the way I like to say it is, we're taking our region's oldest, most venerable venue as the start at Francis Olympic Field, and then our newest, most venerable gem of a sports facility in Energizer Park, and having the finish there as bookends.
And that is brilliant. Let's talk about people coming to watch it.
Yeah.
I was just in Nebraska over the weekend talking to my in-laws, and LA 28 came up, and we were talking about how expensive the tickets were, and oh my gosh, I don't know if we could ever make this work. And I said, did you know St. Louis has the marathon team trials? And they go, oh my gosh, we could just go to St. Louis and be part of it and see something really awesome. And I said, you absolutely can. So is that the idea that for marathon spectating, anyone can be around?
Exactly. That's one of the great things about the marathon trials, the accessibility that. And we're going to have to be really good at guiding spectators on, where's the best place to watch and how do you get there and how can you keep moving along the route so you're not just planted at one point and you see the men go by and then you see the women go by and you're done. One thing that's helpful, too, is they will do a loop course in downtown. So even if you're just in one spot there, you'll see them come through multiple times. But, the upside is, there's no ticket to just watch the race on right along the street. So anybody can be a part of it. And then for the finish at Energizer Park, that will likely be a ticketed piece, but we want to make it sort of a real festival atmosphere, that we'll try to build some programming that leads up to the finish in Energizer Park. So great opportunities for St. Louisans to be a part of it, on top of like the volunteer opportunities and other ways to connect to the event. We're going to need a lot of volunteers.
That's such a good point.
And I should also say it's all tied into the Go St. Louis weekend. This is also a really big deal, is to be able to bring the race in, be part of our own St. Louis Marathon weekend, elevate that in terms of the exposure and the number of people coming in. But it's not just the Olympic trials that are happening. It's a whole celebration of St. Louis and long-distance running and not so long-distance running with all the other races that take part of the weekend. But great synergy between trials and Go St. Louis, and it should be something really special.
And that's so nice that you're doing that with Go intentionally, because that's an organization that has been around for so long. Everyone in the running community knows they do it really, really well.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're starting from scratch. The infrastructure is there.
Yes, and hopefully there's sort of shared resources that, from an economic standpoint, help, and just a logistics standpoint. But it's great for us to connect with Go St. Louis and be able to utilize their expertise. And said all along that I really hope that by hosting the trials, this is something that further raises the profile of our homegrown event, and that Go St. Louis can really benefit from the trials being in St. Louis.
I'm just still taken aback by all the different entities you work with.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Olympic Committee. Earlier, we were talking about the museals. You're also constantly trying to bring NCAA events here, but also big other events like the All-Star Game that was here just a few years ago, the Winter Classic. Do you just have this Rolodex? Okay, we're contacting this person from MLB today to see what we can get here in St. Louis. Does it ever stop?
It never stops, and it gets quite intense. And I feel that way right now because we have multiple bids that we're working on. But we try to be very targeted and very strategic. And to your point about the Rolodex is so much of our industry and success, all that's built on relationships. And my predecessor, Frank Viverito, was brilliant with that. And that was a large reason of the success we had as an organization under Frank is the relationships he's built. And I've certainly benefited, and our organization going forward has certainly benefited from that. But that's what we've got to do is be out there. And, I was just before the interview, I was doing a phone call with one of our main contacts at the NCAA talking about the upcoming bid process that they have. And so, it's so key. And one of the things that we try to do and be really intentional about is always, we don't do a lot of marketing. We don't have the money to do it, but we'll make sure we are at the events that we want to host. In the earlier years when they're in other cities. This was actually a big piece of the U.S. Figure Skating Championships. Is we were one of the few cities that was present in 2024. We went to Columbus and made the point we want U.S. figure skating back, and that sort of kicked off the process that have ultimately, there's a small piece to it, but ultimately led to us winning the figure skating championships for 26, and we all know how that went.
It went incredibly well.
Yeah.
And then it went even better when they were abroad and won all the gold medals that they did and silver medals, bronze, all the things to make America so proud. And knowing that it all started right here in St. Louis is really, really special.
Yeah, for me, I was a little biased because it's that was my first, Frozen Four, but one of the first events we've hosted in the role I'm in now. But to me, it just the magic of the figure skating championships here is special. Maybe going back in terms of the events we've directly hosted. I mean, we've had some great. The PGA Championship at 18, was out of this world. But I go back just Sports Commission events. Maybe go back to 2005, the Final Four, then to match. Just that joy that it brought the community and how much the community was connected and engaged and how compelling it was for St. Louis. It just, that event in January really stood apart.
And we can see the sparkle in your eye as you talk about it and the passion in your voice about it. And we're just getting started in this conversation because, as Mark mentioned, he was just on the phone with the NCAA. So I want to know what we're talking about, what he can tell us about the bids are currently out there for St. Louis to get in the upcoming years. We encourage you to share this conversation, again, with any sports fan in your life or anyone who just wants to know how these things all work, the background, and how many years in advance they are working to get an event. That is mind-boggling in itself. You're watching Live with Laura. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Live with Laura. I'm sitting across from Mark Schreiber, who is the president of the St. Louis Sports Commission, and we are thrilled that he's giving us a full hour of his time today, because it's already been a busy day. You've been speaking with the NCAA about events that could be coming to St. Louis. Anything you can tell us that you're working on right now? Yeah,
and that was primarily just to do a sort of a check-in on their upcoming bid process. So every few years, the NCAA has a bid cycle where they will look for cities to bid on all their championships across all sports. There's a few exceptions. Baseball is always in Omaha, softball's in Oklahoma City. The Final Fours are on a different cycle as well. But this fall, likely November, we will have all our bids due for NCAA championships from fall of 28 through spring of 31. And we have to figure out what's the package. How do we put this together? How we do it in the most compelling way that's going to make us successful. And the events that we're looking at, I think most people it's obvious to a lot of people, but we obviously want to get men's basketball back here. Love to do a women's basketball regional, bringing NCAA wrestling back here. We'll have N27, but want to get soon right after that. Frozen Four. And one thing I'd say that's at really the top of the list is women's volleyball, the D1 Women's Volleyball Championship. It's the highest profile NCAA championship we have yet to host. And with the growth of volleyball, especially in the Midwest, but across the country, it would be huge for us, especially to have it happen in December. It's kind of a slow tourism period for, in the winter. Just to have that influx of visitors and activity be wonderful for the region, but just the excitement of having that sport that is growing and thriving. The event is now a perennial sellout. I'd love to see that happen.
It's so interesting you mentioned that. I talked about my in-laws in Nebraska earlier, and it's only Nebraska volleyball. So much so that several of them have traveled over the years to go to the Final Four, even if Nebraska's not in it. They get their tickets so early because they have to be there. They have to be there. And when you talk about making these bids for 28, 29, 30, and 31, I instantly thought, how much our city is going to change by then. I mean, currently downtown, they're tearing down the Millennium with the renderings of this new gorgeous hotel and entertainment space that they are building out. That has to be challenging, too, that you're making bids knowing whatever it's going to look like when it happens is still being ironed out now.
It's the important piece for us, though, is we have to do a really good job in this bid process of highlighting and outlining the improvements that are going to happen to downtown. And, eventually you'll talk about the airport as well once that gets more solidified. But just looking at downtown and sort of the recent legislation that has passed, both at the state level and then with the Rams settlement here locally, we could make some great strides, and we have to drive that home and emphasize it. And it's everything from the entertainment district, which is going to help with public safety and lighting, to the legislation that I mentioned that will hopefully put downtown on a positive trajectory in terms of attracting residents and visitors to make it more active, which is what we need. And so, yes, that's a big piece of the work we have to do between now and November is present that in the best way that we can. And just to, I'm so glad you mentioned Nebraska. You get it.
I've learned a lot.
Yeah, with that event, if Nebraska were in it, all you'd have is just a sea of red in the arena. It's incredible how they travel. We're even looking at doing a early season volleyball event just because we know the Nebraska fans
will be here.
Yeah, it's a real phenomenon. It's with them.
It really is. I've been amazed at the cult. It almost feels like of their fandom. But I'm also amazed that you are doing so many things with so few people. When we think of something called a commission, we think there are all these people who are doing all these things. You guys have a pretty small but very mighty staff. Please tell us about the inner workings of how you get all of this done and the people who are on the Sports Commission.
Yeah. In starting at the staff level, we're very fortunate to have such a great group, just passionate, care so much, and some great institutional knowledge too, which is a big thing. I mean, there's several on our staff that have been around and understand all this stuff. And you talk about relationships. people on our staff that are just very tied in to our friends at the NCAA or our university partners, on and on. You expand from there. We're so lucky to have such a great core of support in the region. We're one of the few sports commissions around the country that's completely privately funded. And so we rely on the business community for much of our operating budget and support. And so to have that depth of corporate business, individual support as well makes all the difference. I'll put our board up in the region or around the country. So to have that group behind us and, have a chairman like Mike Lloyd and those that have come before him, Mark Lombardi, Dave Peacock, all been instrumental. Bob Chapchick, Doug Albrecht, Scott Schnook, I can go on and on. I'm going to surely leave somebody, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, Walter Lapkin, on and on and on. We're so lucky with that leadership. And then it's the partners that we work with. And, we have to work closely with Explore St. Louis, Greater St. Louis Inc., City Hall, the police department. Chief Tracy has been terrific to us. And that was a great story, both figure skating and the marathon trials bid is the way everybody has come together and collaborated. And I think it's as good of a level as it's ever been. And a little insight to the marathon trials bid, they did a site visit in February. And the last day of the site visit, it was 2 days. On the Sunday, the second day, we did a brunch. And we brought together a plethora of civic leaders and partners. And I called it our show of force lunch. And there probably aren't many cities that would have been able to do what we did in terms of the collection of civic partners and leaders that were at the table, and that helps St. Louis shine. So when you ask the question, it's a very long answer, I apologize, but when you ask the question how these come together, it's all those elements merging to help put forth a great effort on St. Louis's behalf.
And they should come together because once St. Louis is awarded a big event, that collaboration is going to be key. Of course, you need the police department there to make sure everyone is safe. Explore St. Louis is so good about getting the word out about everything. Greater St. Louis Inc., as you mentioned. So it's not just on the front end, it's then through the planning and the execution of these events too. Yeah.
And again, that's where the partners come on board in a big way. And we're a very staff-driven organization with our work. And another piece we pride ourselves on is the ability to handle all aspects of the event, everything from operations to marketing, the sponsorship, sales, volunteers, on and on. And we have to work with our venue partners. That's the big piece I shouldn't leave out. And, again, great example. We are so lucky in St. Louis for the way the Blues and Enterprise Center, and our other venues as well, but I call them out. City SC is this way too, Energizer Park, but many of our biggest events more recently have been in Enterprise Center. And we could not have better venue partners than we do in that group. And my counterparts in other cities, they have good partners, but to the extent that the Blues are, I'm so lucky with the situation that we're in. But back to just the effort we have to service the events that we do. That was something the CEO of U.S. Figure Skating called out in his post-event press conference, was saying that the St. Louis Sports Commission is one of the best, if not the best, service-oriented organizations he's worked with in his career. Really meant a lot to us, and it was great that was so evident because we really try to put that personal high touch on whatever we do, and when it is observed and highlighted by our event rights holders, that's really gratifying.
It's really cool for you personally because this isn't a job that you just randomly applied for because you have been at this level at this company and this level at this company, and then it was time to go to the next level. You yourself have personally and professionally grown up in the St. Louis Sports Commission. What is your history with this organization?
Yeah, so, I grew up in St. Louis, loving sports, loving St. Louis, and kind of the introduction to the industry and role was volunteering for the U.S. Olympic Festival back in 1994. Those that lived here then 30 plus years ago will remember that because it was a huge deal. But that was the Sports Commission's first big event success. But just as somebody from the outside observing this, you're like, oh, what a great thing this is for our community. Like, I want to be a part of this. And I ended up, this is while I was in college during this time, I got to do an internship the following year in 1995 at the Sports Commission. And at the tail end, Frank Viverito was named the organization's president. I was writing the newsletter as part of my internship, so I had to go down and interview Frank. He was working at Explore St. Louis, Convention and Visitors Commission at the time. He was working there, so I had to go down the hall, interview him. That's how I got to know him. Somewhat to make a long story short, I stayed in touch, tried to get an internship when I graduated college in 97. They didn't have anything going on, but a year later, after working in Chicago for a year on a high school sports TV show, I had the summer free. I said, hey, you guys need any help to fill my summer? And Frank said, well, we got the Big 12 championship coming up. We've got Jackie Joyner-Kersey's farewell track meet. Yeah, we could use some help. So did a second internship, and things went so well, led to a full-time job, and the rest is history.
And I think that's really special with you now as president. The people who are on your staff know that you get it, that you started as an intern, you worked
Maybe
your way up.
But, yeah.
I'll interview them off camera. But you started as an intern, and you have been with this organization as it has grown with the 2005 Final Four that you mentioned, into the MLB All-Star Game, the Winter Classics, the PGA Championship. You've been there for some of St. Louis's biggest sports moments.
Yeah. I've seen some great stuff, and really fortunate to have been a part. Not many people get to spend their career this long doing something that is so fulfilling. Mm-hmm. It's very lucky with that, and fortunate too when sort of we went through the succession following Frank, is that our executive committee and board, said, hey, it's really important that we have somebody with that knowledge of the organization as opposed to sort of going out and doing a search and bringing somebody else in from outside St. Louis. It's very gratifying. My wife always talks about what would 12-year-old Mark think about all this, and that's the part where you think back to growing up here and to be able to be a part of all this now in this way. It's really something, and just also to be amongst the community leadership. I was at an event just last, a civic event, and it's like you're looking around the room and you're like, I don't belong with this group. But at the end of the day, I want to do something that helps St. Louis and makes a difference, leaves it in a better place. And we have our challenges. We all know that. And we just want to do everything we can. We're not the end-all, be-all, but we want to do our part to make this a better place for our residents, for people to visit, and for St. Louis to grow and thrive.
Would you please finish this sentence for me? St. Louis is one of the best sports cities in America because...
the fans and our people. And that's what's built it. And I'll include the athletes in that category, but it's the support, the way, and I know, Cardinals baseball is a little down from a attendance standpoint, but over time, just across the board, it's that support that has given St. Louis that reputation, and it helps us so much you're asking about the NCAA and conversations there. And I think just with all of our partners around the country, what helps us in our bids is St. Louis has this reputation as a great sports town, a track record of success, and knowledge that our city, our region is going to step up. And it's because our fans care so much. It's our identity. That's what we're all Cardinal fans. We're all City SC fans. We're all Blues fans. And we wear that on our sleeves. And there's only a handful of cities around the country that have that kind of fervor and passion in such a positive way.
This is going to be the first podcast I have done where my face is going to hurt after it because I've been smiling so much, hearing so many great things about our town. So we are going to take our final commercial break. And as we do that, we encourage you to now think about someone in your life who just loves St. Louis. Share this episode with them because it's going to make them feel so good about all the things that are happening right here in our community. We'll be right back with more of Live with Laura and Mark Schreiber from the St. Louis Sports Commission. We have a few more moments to talk all things sports with Mark Schreiber, the head of the St. Louis Sports Commission. Okay, Mark, this past Sunday, I was standing in my bedroom screaming at the TV over a soccer match.
Yeah.
Now, I have never watched a soccer match in my life, but my gosh, the entire family was like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen? Argentina, Messi, he didn't win. Spain wins. We were so into it.
Yes.
And millions, billions of people from all over the world were tuned in.
Yeah. I was struck because even my mom told me she was watching. My mom's a big sports fan. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't necessarily think she was tuning in for the World Cup, but she was into it as well. So yes, they did quite well.
Yes, it was so exciting having it here in America. So exciting to think 2 years from right now in July of 28, we're going to have the play-in games for the Olympics in soccer at Enterprise Center, or Energizer Park. It'd be weird if it was at the Enterprise Center. But man, all the momentum happens in other sports too. We're trying to get the World Cup of rugby here.
Yeah. We can kind of take that momentum for granted sometimes. But yeah, just as we look the furthest out, and maybe we can come back to the present in a bit, but we actually have a bid due at the end of August for the 2031 Rugby World Cup. I would venture to say largest international sporting event we'd host since the 1904 Olympics if we got the event. It would take place at the Dome, which is a really important thing because we talk about, to me, the Dome is a major asset for our region. We have to figure out how to maximize the use. And Explore St. Louis does an excellent job from a convention standpoint, but just from a sports facility, there's a lot we can do. We can do college football there. We're trying to bring Mizzou and Illinois together.
Please do.
Bring back that series, and we're going to do all we can to try to make that happen. But Rugby World Cup would be a significant thing. May not rise all the way to the level of the FIFA Men's World Cup, but it would be big. The impact would be mammoth, and it's a chance to put St. Louis on an international map and draw international visitors to our region. So we've got our work cut out for us over the next 5 or 6 weeks to get this all together. And there's a process. We'll have a chance to go back throughout the year to on the bid. But we'll sort of get a better sense in 27 where we stand with that event.
Over the next 5 to 6 weeks as well, there's another huge event that's happening in St. Louis at Belle Reve, the BMW Classic. Of course, Belle Reve, the location of the PGA Championship back in 2018. Yep. This is another really big deal where all eyes are going to be on St. Louis for a massive weekend.
Yeah, and we are very fortunate with the approach Belle Reve Country Club takes on these major events that it's not easy for a club to just shut down and put on events like the BMW Championship and the PGA Championship, and then the 2030 they'll have the President's Cup as well. It's a true gift to the region that we have these coming in. And, I encourage people. Obviously, I think anybody that's a golf fan knows this is coming up. But, there's tickets available.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I've been told, ticket sales have been phenomenal. They may set a record with this one, just like they do with everything else. And hospitality, suites, and sales have been great. So again, another instance where the community is stepping up, and that'll be here August 18th to the 23rd.
Then, of course, the musials are happening just before Thanksgiving, and then we get into December.
Yep.
NCAA basketball season.
Yeah.
Couple of huge games are happening in St. Louis. One was just announced in the last few weeks. SLU Mizzou.
Yes. And that almost came out of nowhere for us. We always talk about why aren't they playing, and give the coaches credit, the athletic department's credit. They made it happen. That one's actually November 6th. It's the first game of the season, but it's a 3-year series at Enterprise Center. And just a treat for St. Louis basketball fans to now have that on the calendar. A great way to tip off the season. And it's something we've all been long waiting for to happen. And here it is. And I'm sure that is going to be a hot ticket. And then, of course, you always have the bragging rights game in December, the holiday treat of Mizzou and your Illini coming together on the basketball court at Enterprise Center.
I'm incredibly biased for that game. ILL. With SLU Mizzou, we talk about momentum coming off all the momentum of SLU's run last year.
Yeah, and it's so nice to see the SLU program get to where it's at right now, and be a tournament contender. Big fan of Chris May and Josh Schertz, and they seem to be doing it the right way, and just a program that we can be proud of here in St. Louis. And to see so much energy restored to Chaffetz Arena, they just have a hint of success. The energy in the building is outstanding. So it's great to see the path that SLU basketball is on, and SLU athletics in general.
I am so excited about the accessibility we as normal people have to these sporting events, to these big athletes. You mentioned attendance down at Busch Stadium. I just took my little boy to his very first Cardinals game a week and a half ago, and it was just awesome. So family friendly. The fact that we had bleacher seats or out in the outfield. We were like this far from Jordan Walker, and I just sat there and thought, this is baseball heaven.
Yeah.
How cool.
Something I think we all get in St. Louis. Again, maybe take a little bit for granted. You said the accessibility, the amenities as well. But I went to a game. And I don't go to a whole lot of baseball games just because when you're it's sort of work. We work downtown. I get home, got family, and so forth. But I had the chance to take the family to the game a couple weeks ago, and it was from leaving our house to sitting in our seats. It was, I think, 25 minutes. We're not near downtown, but I was in Chicago for school. You can't do that at Wrigley Field.
No.
There's a lot of places you can't do that, and parking's relatively easy, and it's easy to get out. And we're so lucky that we have that kind of accessibility here in the community, and it's something that I really value, is the ease of being able to enjoy not just the sports that we have, but all the cultural amenities. We were at the Muni Saturday night. I love that. And it's quintessential St. Louis. This beautiful night and sitting outside, 10,000 seat theater. You add it all together, and just the accessibility and amenities of this region, it puts us over the top.
We've been talking about long-term things that you want to bring here to St. Louis, and I'm just still amazed by the foresight you have to have constantly. When you think even longer, 20, years out
Yeah.
from right now, what type of events do you hope are here in St. Louis that the Sports Commission is getting?
Yeah. Personally, and whether this can be practically done is another question, but I would love to see some investment in the Dome at America Center where we can really utilize that facility for the highest level of events. So I'd love to see us get back to being a Final Four city, be able to host the Final Four. And, there's so much change in college sports right now. It's hard to know what's coming, but there's surely going to be opportunities with the college football playoff, with conference expansion. The footprint, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the SEC, it's across the country. So we're in the middle. So we might, Illinois may be our closest Big Ten university. It's on the other side of the river, but we're still in the heart of Big Ten territory. Why not host the Big Ten football championship here? And so it's going up a notch in terms of the mega event that we can do. And I'll put the U.S. Olympic swimming trials in that category. We bid on that a couple of times, have come up short. But I'd love to see us one day be able to do that with the 2 Olympic-sized pools in the Dome in a magical setting that, again, just captivates our region for a week. And so, it's those level of events that I'd want to see. I'm not going to be silly and say we'll do the Olympics, but we're actually doing the Olympics in 28 with soccer. So, you never know. And there's some fun stuff. We've got some other things up our sleeves that, love to see us do, and love to see the Musial Awards keep growing and become even more prominent. I want the Musials to be like the ESPYs and the Oscars and the Emmys and be in that category. I don't know if we'll, get there, but that's what we're striving to do.
Well, you're well on your way. And we should mention that tickets for the Musial Awards just went on sale today.
Yes.
Where can people get those tickets?
Best place to go is musialawards.com. They're on sale through Ticketmaster, but if you go to musialawards.com and click on tickets, you can see all the options. There's great seats available in the orchestra, and there's very affordable seats that are available as well in the mezzanine. So we want it to be a family event, and it's a great opportunity to bring the family down and be inspired.
One of the most inspiring nights in sports,
Yes.
Exactly what I was thinking. And I am inspired by this conversation, and I'm excited for the future. And I can't wait to go tell my friends, oh my gosh, we have bids in for this and this and this. And it's all happening thanks to the collaborative nature of the St. Louis Sports Commission.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your success, and keep doing it, 'cause this is fun.
Yeah, well, thank you to everybody here at the stations, big supporters as well. We're lucky to have such great backing all across the board. So thank you, Laura. It's great to be with you.
Oh, it's great to be with you, and always great to be with you, friends. Thank you for the gift of your time. Until next time, thank you for listening, thank you for learning, and thank you for being Live with Laura.